My friends, my friends. Thank you for being a member of this series. Today I was unable to do a live session. However, I will have videos for the members only stuff on this channel for show. Right now I am making my way back to the rentable space where I teach from 3 days a week. And what I wanted to do in the next 5 minutes while I'm driving back there, very carefully, I just want to explain what this series is and how to utilize this channel, if it's not already obvious. If you do not play an instrument, that's fine. The concept is what we want to do is vocalize what music theory is to us and look at ways that we could utilize it while listening to music analyzation, being able to use different concepts and like put them into fruition, unto which you would be able to use basic terminology to express yourself with music. So if you're watching this, I would suggest going back kind of to the beginning of just this series. It talks about music foundations and basics. What that means is when you have the vocabulary to talk about notes, you understand what the different types of notes are. You understand that when we use pitch and we're talking about rhythm, we're talking about two different things essentially. But when you speed up rhythm, it alters pitch sometimes. So that's another explanation for like how actual notes work. But the distances between the notes, like the distances that don't have volume or any dynamics, are called rests. So when you're able to use the notes and the rests, you're able to create tension in space with rhythm and pulse. And some of the things that we do to understand this kind of allows us to move through the possibility of seeing different ways of functionality. The way that I talk about this seems overwhelming sometimes with vocabulary with some students, so the idea is to ask questions if it doesn't make sense. Going forward from this point on, what we would like to do in this series is to use concepts that have been covered since the beginning video, which means you kind of have to know what notes are. You have to know what a whole note is, what a half note is, what a quarter note is, an eighth note, 16th, 32nd, 64th, 128th. The idea is once you got just those basic concepts, then subdivision of those happen, and different time signatures use different feelings and pulses. So if we were going to be discussing like what a 12/8 samba would feel like, we would necessarily need to know many different things that would just necessitate the beginning of being able to talk about that. So what I would really like to do is have people ask questions. If you are watching this video, please go back on the first couple foundations series and ask questions about things you're unsure of. My total goal is to have people that enjoy this timestamp the comment section. If you already do not know this, this is how I learn. I go to videos that I watch of different people and I timestamp their videos. I found people, they kind of find it weird, but they really enjoy it because it helps them to have just like a log of what's going on in the video. I'm surprised AI doesn't do it yet. But what I would do is go back to the first video, and it has me jibber-jabbing probably for the first 2 minutes. But then it gets into the music crux, what the foundations of notes are, how to view a whole note, half note, quarter note, the aforementioned. And then when we talk about the notes having pitch or a longevity of a tone when you play it before it decays, we then talk about how those notes have no tone, and those rests work hand in hand. To be able to write a melody, we would need to know what these notes are. And then we would also need to know some of the music foundations, like what a key signature is, or how many notes there are in a scale, or what a scale does, and why we use collections of 7 notes. Why in the Western world we have 2 scales, one being diatonic and the other being chromatic, and what those definitions mean. Meaning dyad, when we're talking about chords formed from the 7 notes of a family key. When we alter the notes, this is called tertiary harmony. If I were to take all 7 notes and remove all of them except for every third, it would basically create a chord onto which we would have different variables as the 6th and then the 7th. Most chords that we use are just root form, but we also use that where we take a chord and use the 3 tones before and after. If you're looking at it through the eyes of an arpeggio, ha 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 ha, you're using the 1, 3, 5, and then the octave 1 to ascend and descend through a scale utilizing the 1st, the 3rd, the 5th, and then the 8th intervals. This is common foundations of music theory to be able to express that. So if we were talking about pentatonic scales in opposition or along with some sort of kind of idea for melody writing, we would be able to say, what key are we in? We're in the key of D. D major and B minor share a key signature. We would have to know what key signatures are. That means we would probably want to know what the circle of fifths is, and then how to move around the circle of fifths and or the circle of fourths to be able to understand what keys have what sharps and what flats. The accidentals, which augment and or diminish notes of their pitch, their value. So the whole idea behind this is whether you are doing music as just learning the foundations so you could then be prepared to take on an instrument, or if you are just kind of like an IQ nerd like me that really gets into the music theory aspect of it, the definitions for dynamics, the different types of markings that are found on all types of written music, sheet music. I don't know. I probably don't use 75% of the dynamic markings and stuff like that. However, I'm aware of what they are. And then some certain things that I write music for would definitely use those. And what I'm looking forward to is going back and rewriting back and being like, oh, I like this ending in this song. I think the ending should be longer. I'm going to, rather than put a fermata here, I'm going to put a tenuto, and I'm, blah, 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 blah. So the whole idea is once you get a firm grasp on what these are by doing music analyzation, then you could go and write your own music. Some people write music, don't need to write down a single note on a single staff. But maybe that's for me. I don't know. Personally, I've written over 5,000 songs at this point. Each one of them is within form, has chords in it, and then it also has some sort of setup. So if I go back and look at the song, I can immediately look back at a melody, a time signature, and a key signature, and then be able to understand just from the markings on the page, oh, this song is a blues song. Or I could look at the piece of music and go, oh, all of the chords are inside the diatonic key of, let's say, D, aforementioned D. Why? In the staff, I see there are 2 sharps. When I'm looking through there aren't really any accidentals. If there was an A sharp that had been added to that to make D major have 3 sharps, I would then see, oh, wow. I would be looking at that and going, we've got B harmonic minor. And the reason why these are kind of cool is you only have 7 notes. When you can memorize what a major key signature is, and then you can memorize what a minor key signature is, it's parallel, relative, major, minor, music starts to unfold in front of your eyes. So my hopes are that we allow people, what's going on here? My hopes are that we allow people that are doing this to ask questions, to enjoy the concept of learning music foundations, which simply means we're learning how to say 1, 3, 5, do, mi, so. How to use the solfege, that's the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. How to associate that with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. How to hear if you were to flatten 1, 2, flat, 3, 4, 5, flat, 6, flat, 7, 1. How you can start vocalizing that, and then also at the same time, no matter what your instrument is, always work on a little bit of piano, and always kind of work on a little bit of piano and then vocals. If you're capable and able to do that in one sitting each day for 5 minutes, or maybe once a week for 25 minutes, you will eventually become a stronger sight reader. You will become a stronger writer. You will become a stronger ear and analyzation of music that you hear. And I guess just a little backstory and why it could and should be important is I listened to Fish and Frank Zappa and Moody Blues and, I don't know, how would I explain this? Like Victor Borga, music comedy, Weird Al Yankovic. I've listened to polka music. I've listened to heavy metal. I've listened to disco. I've listened and played all these different genres, and I gotta say that overplaying them, they all have their own little subtle variations which make them awesome unto their own. And one of the things that I enjoy to see is how, as a musician, you kind of grow by doing other genres. So I really enjoy samba, and I really enjoy like Afro-Cuban beats. And a lot of the stuff that I would like to move through musically allows me to, I don't know, I would say be more aware of what the beat and the rate of the rhythm or the pitch is. And that's as just seeing it through the standpoint of doing something over and over and over and over and over and over again. You just start to have like a natural acuity to see and feel where the things and the pulses and the beats are going. I guess if that makes sense. So in my reality, the reason why I'm doing these foundations is, one, it makes me a stronger player because I start to understand the variations of what's going on in different types of music, whether it's classical music, some of my favorite, Tchaikovsky or Debussy, Mendelssohn, Bach. There's just there's just so many that I could go over as far as like my favorites in classical music. It'd be hard. But because I went over stuff in like the classical music as far as analyzation goes, I was also able to listen to like Metallica or Pantera and listen to the nuances and feel the rhythms and pulses. And then, I'm 45. So when I was 25, my perception on myself and the reality of music, and it's different now. I've gotten older. There's a little more wisdom. There's more deep breaths. I've played thousands of gigs since then. What I've realized is to not take myself too serious, to enjoy music and have fun. So what I've done is I've wanted to encourage people that are in the members series to go back to these other foundations of music theory and timestamp them. Meaning, if you put like at 2 minutes, so 2 colon, no, not colon. Is it colon? Semicolon. I can't remember. Which one's the one with 2 dots? I think it's semicolon. So basically time. So basically 2:45. If you put the timestamp there, it'll highlight it blue, and whatever you put next to it can serve as kind of like here's where it's at. So when I do this and I timestamp something, I'll put like 2:45, talked about majors versus minors. At 3 minutes and 15, talked about the spelling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7 as being the difference between a major scale or a mixolydian mode, which is a diminishment of the major seventh to a minor seventh. When you do these things over and over again and you look at other material and you pick up the concept, even if you do not know what that means. Meaning, if we get to a point in this series where we're going over how to use negative harmony and how to create a circle of opposition for all the notes inside of a scale chromatically, and then look at each one of those notes and then be able to find an equal opposite for it so you could turn music that has one feeling into another. It changes cadences, preferences of melodic structures. Once all these words start making sense and you start doing analyzation on, I don't know, whatever your favorite music is, maybe if you love heavy metal and you want to get better at heavy metal, you learn how to do Brazilian music and write it out, or at least understand parts of it. And I guarantee just the process of the education on the level of music, it will also help you at whatever your desired goal is at your function. So time stamping the videos in this is kind of necessary. If I find that nobody's doing that, I'm going to go and timestamp them anyways. Because I'd like to be able to watch these videos and narrow them down from all the jibber jabber, which is generally an hour. That's what I've set aside for these. I'm pretty sure all the information could be shoved into like a half an hour, but there is a lot of information in every one of these videos. And the idea is I don't know everything about everything. In fact, I know nothing about anything, really. Music is the one thing that comes kind of natural to me, and I wanted to know why the songs like Tuesday Afternoon with the key change, why it felt awkward but good. I wanted to know when Zappa was doing how to explain that to somebody so they also can understand the beauty of it and want to play it so we could play it together. And just saying, I know this guy named Zappa wrote the song. It's like, it just doesn't do justice. But being able to write down the melodic structure so I could give it to a drummer so they could go, 1 and a 2, 1 and a 2, and 2, and oh, cool, subdivisions. When you find that one person that likes it as much as you do, that's the person that you should play music with and have a project with. And